It's GPS. It's GPS. Oh yes, oh yes. It's GPS with Mr. F. It's GPS. Woo! How about that, Year 5? It's my Year 5 GPS jingle. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a bit bored. Sitting at home all day without any children to teach. I thought I'd give you a little bit of help with the GPS this week because at first I felt a little bit mean giving you relative clauses to do at home. But you still got to learn some GPS even though you're at home. So I thought I'd do is I'll read you 4 sentences and just help you with recognising the main clause, subordinate clause, because that's something I find a bit tricky. Those of you in my class probably remember how to remember the difference between the main and the subordinate clause. Remember, the main clause makes sense on its own and the subordinate clause doesn't. This time as well, we've got to spot a relative pronoun. Sounds a bit scary, but relative just means that your clause is linked to the other one, like your relatives in your family are linked together. The relative pronoun links your main clause with your subordinate clause. And it's usually a word like who, that, which, where, when. They're quite easy to spot once you get the hang of it. So I'm going to give you some examples of sentences not linked to Cosmic first, but then on your PowerPoint you're going to have some sentences that are linked to Cosmic, and you have to write them out in your book and tell me what the main clause is, subordinate clause, relative pronoun. So, first one is, we have a lot of cousins who live in other cities. I'll read it for you again. We have a lot of cousins who live in other cities. Giving you a bit of help there to pause. I've separated the clauses when I've read that out loud. Think about which one's the main clause that makes sense on its own. Which one could I put a full stop at the end and it would be fine? We have a lot of cousins who live in other cities. So the first clause, we have a lot of cousins. Would I be able to put a full stop at the end of that and it would make sense of the sentence? Yes, it would. So that would be the main clause. Who live in other cities. Does that make sense on its own as a sentence? No. So that's your subordinate clause. And then I'm going to have a little look. The word that connects my main clause with my subordinate clause and is a pronoun. So it's my relative pronoun is who. Well done if you got it. Next one. The first person who brought chocolate to Europe was the explorer Cortez. Oh, this one's a bit trickier. The first person who brought chocolate to Europe was the explorer Cortez. This one's quite tricky. The first person who brought chocolate to Europe was the explorer Cortez. This time I've got my relative clause in the middle of the sentence. Oh, that's tricky. But if I look at my relative pronoun, it's the same as the other one, who. So my relative pronoun, who. And if you take the subordinate clause out of the sentence, the rest of the sentence should make sense. And it should be a main clause left. So if I took out who brought chocolate to Europe, it would just be the first person was the explorer Cortez. Oh, but I need my relative clause in there for it to make sense. Who brought chocolate to Europe? So that's the relative clause, relative pronoun, who. Remember that one's popped in the middle there. Sometimes we call it a drop-in clause. Oh, this one, there's another one next. The next one is a drop-in clause in the middle again. The machine, which broke down, has been mended. The machine, which broke down, has been mended. Wow, this one's got another drop-in clause in the middle. It's got a different relative pronoun. I wonder what the relative pronoun is. Which, that's right. So the machine, which broke down, has been mended. What's my main clause there? Oh, it's hard, isn't it? Maybe I'll start with my subordinate clause. Which broke down. That doesn't make sense on its own. If I take that out, what have I got left? The machine has been mended. Oh, so those words should make up my main clause. Good, so I've got the machine has been mended as my main clause, which broke down, subordinate clause. Last one. This one's a bit easier actually than the last one. Your PE bag should be on your peg, where you can also hang up your coat. Oh, your PE bag should be on your peg. If I put a full stop there, is that going to make sense? Yes. So that's my main clause, where you can also hang up your coat. Subordinate clause. What's the relative pronoun in that sentence then? That's right, where. So, when you have a go at your writing this week, it's not, I know it sounds tricky and it sounds confusing, all these fancy words like subordinate and relative pronoun, all that stuff. But actually, if you use a word like who, which, where, when, that in your writing, you're just going to be adding some extra detail to the sentence and making sure it's interesting for the reader. Otherwise, it's a bit useless, isn't it? Or like the last one, your pee bag should be on your peg, where you can also hang up your coat. It adds something extra to the sentence instead of having to start a whole new sentence, and it makes it a bit boring. Your pee bag should be on your peg, full stop. You can also hang up your peg on your coat on your peg, full stop. Just adds a bit more variety, and we can start adding commas to our sentences, make them a little bit more varied. So, good luck with the activity for GPS. It's not the easiest one, but I know you love it because you can get your highlighters out and underline the main clause and highlight the relative pronoun. I know you love doing that in the classroom. Good luck, 5CF, Year 5, and I look forward to reading your emails.